Skin cancer. When we talk about cancer, we are talking about unregulated cell division. So this would be definition is unregulated cell division. Now, our body needs to be able to undergo division. This type of cell division is referred to as mitosis. You might remember that from a previous biology class. And this mitosis allows us to grow, but it also allows us to repair. And in fact, mitosis is really important in the skin because we have a layer of skin that is constantly being sloughed off, and then it has to be replaced by new cells. So it makes sense that there is cell division occurring throughout our lives in our skin. But unregulated means that it is occurring when it should not occur, and it's occurring to more of an extent than it should. So we can look at some characteristics of cancer cells. One is that they become unspecialized. What does this mean? That means that they really no longer behave like skin cells, and the cells can then get into the bloodstream and they can go to other places in the body and they can survive just fine. And they are looking for places to grow and nutrients to use in order for their own reproduction. They are not regulated to protect the whole individual. But these cancer cells are your cells in general. So these are your cells that are become renegade cells, and they are dividing uncontrollably. So the second characterized is they can metastasize. And so this means that they have gotten into the blood, and then they can go to any place in the body and you don't know where they have gone. So if the doctor tells you your cancer has metastasized, that is very bad news because you no longer can cut it out or radiate a specific part. You actually need to go in and maybe have chemotherapy where the chemicals go everywhere in your body and affect all of your other cells in your body in order to kill those cancer cells and to keep them from dividing. Okay. The third thing is that they become very abnormal looking, and they actually might have abnormal DNA. So their genetic material is abnormal. They might have more than one chromosome, or they might have extra chromosomes, or more than one nucleus in their cells. And so you can look at them underneath the microscope and they look strange. And this is actually important because it allows our immune system to actually detect cancer cells and attack them and kill them. So we do have some ability, innate immunity, to kill cancer cells based upon this abnormal DNA. However, as we get older, or if our immune system is weakened for whatever reason, cancer becomes more likely. So I always say that we have all had cancer cells arise in our bodies, but they have been quickly eliminated by the immune system. The fourth thing is that they form or grow in crowded conditions. So if they are cancer cells, they form what are called malignant, which is bad, versus benign, which is friendly, malignant tumors. So normal cells will stop dividing if conditions become crowded, but cancer cells do not. And so they form weird shapes, weird growth patterns. And you can see this on your skin because when we look at the edges of the whatever is on your skin, it tends to be irregularly shaped. That's one of the characteristics of, say, for example, distinguishing a non-cancerous mole with melanoma, which is a malignant tumor. Okay, so let's look at the images of skin cancer. There are three types that you need to be aware of. The first one is basal cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma is the most common. And if we look at the word basal, It refers to the cells in the basal membrane. So this is the first layer of the epidermis, and these are the cells that normally undergo cell division in order to replace the epidermis as it is constantly being sloughed off and replaced. So basal cell carcinoma would be the basal cells. So we have basal cell carcinoma. These are cells in the basal membrane. And this is the most common, but it's the least likely to spread. The next one is called the squamous cell. Squamous means flat. And so these are cells that are called keratinoids or keratinocytes. Keratinocytes. So these are cells that have lots of keratin. So as the basal cells reproduce, they migrate up, and then they produce lots of keratin, which is a protein, which is going to help to protect the skin. And then the outer cells are actually dead. But in the squamous cell carcinoma, the cells on the surface are still alive and they are dividing. So if we look at the diagram of this, you can see this would be the squamous cell carcinoma. And notice that it tends to have some flaking appearance or scaly appearance, and that would be the keratin in it. This is more likely to spread than the basal cell, but it is not as dangerous as the last type of skin cancer, which is what is referred to as melanoma. So you notice that melanoma is dark in coloration. These are living cells that are dividing, and they metastasize quite readily. And so you need to catch them very early on so you could cut them out before they get into your circulatory system. And they can even go to, say, for example, your brain, which would be very, very bad. So melanoma is the melanocytes. So let me start another page here. So melanoma is the melanocytes. So these are pigment producing cells that produce melanin. This is the most dangerous, but it tends to be relatively common in young people, specifically young people that are fair-skinned and also get a lot of exposure to UV radiation. So ultraviolet radiation would be sunlight, but it would also be tanning beds. And so if you're like fair-skinned and you go to the beach, you go to the pool and you don't use sunscreen, and then in the winter you tan, you're at a much higher risk for getting melanoma. So this melanoma can occur in different areas, even in your eye, in your mouth, on your feet, on your hands. And so it's very important that you do a scan of your skin every once in a while to make sure that it's free of growths that might become potentially damaging. And so that melanoma, again, is the one that is dark in coloration and much more dangerous than the other type, and should be, you should immediately go to the doctor if you think you have melanoma.